What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another one-on-one with Dev. This is not the Devin Wade show, but it's always the Devin Wade show.
It's the Devin Wade show.
Today, man, I'm sitting here with a person that has like defied the odds, man, when it comes to the music thing. A lot of people, it's a stigma in hip-hop music that when you reach a certain age bracket, you're no longer accepted by the hip hop community.
Right.
Or I don't know if it's you can't teach old dogs new tricks thing, or it's just a thing where they say hip hop is for the youth only. Right. But the person that I have on the show today is a person that embraced his age and began making skits that kind of made fun of but showcased an extreme talent. And now he's I think he just passed over 3 million streams on one platform.
Yeah, on Apple. I'm at 3.5 on Apple.
Uh-huh.
I'm at, I guess, 3.5, 3.6 on Spotify. And I think I'm at 2 million or 3 million on YouTube.
Well, we're talking about internet sensation. We're talking about producer extraordinaire and a rapper that you don't want no problems with. Don Michael Jr. is in the building. You know what I mean? Man, where do we begin, man? Where do we begin? The Wolves Smell Joy. It's the project that you have out now.
Yes, sir.
First, before we get into the Wolves Smell Joy, which is the new project, there's a project that was your last project that was out. This Is Not Music.
Yeah.
Can we talk about some of the success of This Is Not Music and how that led to putting you in a position for this new release?
Yeah. This Is Not Music was, for me, just like any other project. I was just making it. I've been doing these solo projects. Some of y'all don't know I used to rap with Dev, but I went solo. Dev decided to stop rapping and pursue media and photography and stuff, and I started dropping albums under my real name back in 2014. So what I noticed when I dropped my album in 2014 was that it spiked everything else. It got me back into the music industry under a different name. So it got me like writing songs for people. It got me getting my production better. It got the studio popping where people were hearing the music. So the album started serving as like a spike for everything. Like I would drop an album and then all of a sudden industry people would call me, yo, you wrote this joint? Can you write this for my artist? Can you do this? Who made these beats? So this album was just that. It was like, it's time for me to drop another one, get the studio cooking because people hear the music and they're just like, who mixed it? Who engineered it? Where'd you record it at? Who made the beats? And I dropped this album, but I dropped this one with the knowledge that I learned in the pandemic of TikTok and of, reels and everything. So this album, I decided to take some of that knowledge and apply these skits. I had stumbled across some skits that worked, and I decided to apply those skits to this album, and it just took off. Like one skit, the first skit I made.
And what was the first skit?
The first skit for this album was for a song called New Energy. And it was me, recording doing the skit, recording a 42-year-old rapper. And the whole skit is you act like it's about to be bad. You know, what people assume it's going to sound like as a 42-year-old rapper. And then you play the real song. And that was the difference in my skit. Like I know I'm not the inventor of studio skits.
Okay.
But I am the inventor of using the skit to promote my real song. I never saw that happen. If I'm not the inventor, like, sue me, tell me, tag me, whatever.
But most of the time, it's something where it's just parody type music and everything.
It's normally
like
a
that.
fake song, or somebody rapping in a funny voice, or this what it would sound like if Kendrick Lamar was on that type of thing. But for me, I was like, I'll make the jokes beforehand, but I don't want my music to be the joke. Like my music's not a joke. So I took that knowledge of me dropping, of doing skits, and I applied it to this, and that song took off. The skit went viral on TikTok. Then I found out Facebook had reels. I put it on Facebook. It went viral there. And then T.I. reposted it.
Yeah. Well, that was what I was going to say is you didn't take your music for a joke, and neither did other people, because
Right.
we saw different superstars and influencers sharing this, and this was all just natural. This wasn't like paid ads, anything like that,
Right.
from the TIs or the Shaqs. And
Right.
or you'll notice that you're getting a whole bunch of mentions and you're wondering, where did it come from? And it's just like, yeah, you didn't know Shaq posted you, or
Right.
TI posted you.
Yeah, like Ti posted me. He didn't tag me. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't tagged in the post. People started tagging me, like other fans of me started tagging me and being like, "Yo, that's Don Michael. That's Don Michael." And I'm like, "Why am I getting tagged?" And then I go look, and I'm just like, "Oh shit!" You know what I mean? Same thing happened with Joe Budden. I was a sleeper on the Joe Budden show. I didn't know. I don't know Ish. I don't know. I think it was Ish that put me on. And I don't know Ish. I don't know Joe. I don't know nobody from the show or nothing like that. But I woke up and people were like, "Yo, that Canary Yellow is on the Joe Budden." And it's just like, bro, I'm a fan of Joe Budden's podcast. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're definitely you're a big fan of Joe Budden's podcast.
Yeah.
Been following him for crazy years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was dope. You know what I mean? And shout out to Parks, because Parks corrected. They got my name wrong on the pod, and Parks like, his name is Don Michael. This is like, yo, Parks, looked out, because that helps a lot. You know?
Nah, that's dope, man. Yeah, because let's go back a little bit. He talked about us rapping together, and one of the things with when you're rapping in a group, you only have a certain amount of time to make your points.
Right.
So it's a different style and format that you usually rap, that's a little less personal, because you don't have time. You don't have 2-3 verses to build up your story.
Right.
You're trying to say everything within 16 bars or 24 bars.
Right.
So when you drop your first release, because I was one of the people that started feeling the pressures of 33. They keep saying that you're not supposed to rap
past 27.
But yeah,
right.
when you go out places and you talk to somebody and they ask you what you do for a living, you hide it a little bit, because we also were songwriters writing songs for other people. So I would mention I'm a songwriter, but not mention that I'm a rapper, right? So you continued to say, no, I'm gonna stick with this. This is pretty much all I know. I am a musician. He's been doing music since 11 years old,
right?
And you stuck with it. But through doing solo music, and you did 3 Day was your first album, you were able to really get personal, and you didn't have to rush through a story. You knew you had 2 or 3 verses to do that. How was that for you, making that adjustment?
It was like it was dope. So 3 Day I made right after we made August Rush, which was like, for those that don't know, we completely rushed through a project. Like, we just said, we're gonna make this whole album in a week. And I made like 9 beats in a day.
One day.
And then we recorded the whole album in a week. We mixed it the next week. We sent it to mastering, because this is back when you had to send it to mastering. We sent it to mastering, and then the next week we put it out. So August we made that album. But we was rapping our asses off on that album. So then when I started 3 Day, right after that, I didn't have any bars left. I was out of bars, and I was like, yo, I don't know what to compare this to. I don't know how to approach this or whatever. But I do know that when I run into what I would call writer's block at that time, when I run into writer's block, I can always tell a true story. And then this is my first time actually pursuing anything solo. So it was like, well, what couldn't I talk about in a group with Dev? That was like a lot of the thought process of making the subjects on 3 Day. It was like, well, what don't I really get to talk about? It's like, Dev don't drive, so I'm gonna make driving past cop cars, because there's some shit that I went through that just never really found a place inside of a song. You know what I mean? Losing my license for 4 years, for those that never heard the song. Dev don't have any kids right now. I'm gonna do this song about my daughter. You know what I mean? It's like I was just doing a lot of shit that was like, okay, well, I don't have any ammo right now, but I have my real life. Let me just write my real life. And when I did that showed me how much more people care about real life than bars. That was like my first introduction to it. I made a song called No Pressure, where I was talking about my parents losing their house and how upset it was making me that I wished I was on so I could like pay for the house and everything like that. And the amount of people, even at like, a lower level of fame or whatever, people not knowing who I was, that was reaching out to me. The amount of people that reached out were saying like, yo, I can relate. yo, my grandmom lost her house. People were just putting themselves, even in different situations, they were putting themselves in my shoes and vice versa. I was speaking for them. And I was like, that's what being so personal allows me to do. And this is why I started building a better fan base than just the people that are impressed with bars. Like the people that are impressed with the bars, they're like, yo, he could rap, yo, his wordplay crazy.
But
blah,
they're
blah, blah.
not as attached
They don't
to
stay.
you as a human being.
Right. They don't stay. The
Right.
people that heard Crooked Pictures or something like that, they stay. They're like, yo, I've been through that. Yo, for real. People, when they heard Funeral Black, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's they stay.
And you always used to say something back in the day. You would often say life rhymes.
Right.
Because we would try to we wanted to be those triple entendre guys. Like I said, 3 things in one comparison. You know what I mean? And you always talked about life rhymes and how it just, for some reason, when you go to tell these stories and you have the ability to rap, when we would do it, it would just flow out. I don't know why, but everything just rhymes together, and you got to kind of get into that pocket and just live there for now album after album after album.
Right. Yeah. So it makes it hard when I gotta just rap. You know what I mean? I recently did a freestyle on High Off Life, and I had to prep for that freestyle. I had to be in Atlanta for 1 day. I stayed there for 3 days just so I could memorize my rap and really focus on delivering it and adding these extra bars and doing it. Because just rapping now, like just rapping to show the bars, it doesn't come as naturally to me anymore. Whereas like rapping about my real life, I could tell a story about anything that happened to me, as long as it happened. You know what I mean? As long as it's true and I got the details of it, it's like, oh, well, this happened to me. So this is how I was thinking. This is where I was driving. This is the road.
That was
real.
That's another thing. Like, make sure that y'all check out that High Off Life
Freestyle,
that freestyle. Remarkable, and he's known for being a one take person. But growing up, we lived a little recklessly in our youth, and I'm talking about like extended youth, like in our 20s and even some early 30s. Like, we didn't live the way that people should at those times. And I remember having difficulties whenever I would like settle down with a woman or something like that, where what you talked about, how if you lived it, you could rap it, where I would get almost like writer's block because I didn't have a new adventure. I didn't go to the club that weekend and do that crazy stuff that we did. So I would be like, I didn't have anything to talk about. But you found a way as a father, you know what I'm saying, a family man, to really talk from that perspective and blend it perfectly with the struggles of working in the industry at the same time.
Yeah, I felt like I said, learning from 3-Day and just seeing how many people related to the subjects, I felt like no matter what I talked about, if it came across authentic and real, somebody was gonna feel it. Somebody was gonna be like be able to relate to it. That's what I saw with Jeezy. Like, when I noticed the phenomenon that Jeezy had, like Jeezy took you over, like it took over Dev's iPod at the time. And I was like, I think the thing that makes Jeezy special was that people know his stories are real stories, and it made it click to people more. You know what I mean? The same reason that Drake could drop "Started from the Bottom, Now I'm Here." That subject, those words, work for anybody. I don't care what your bottom was.
Everybody's bottom is different.
Right, exactly. But it's cool because you started from the bottom and now you're here.
Yeah. If you started at the bottom of the law firm, and now you're a partner at the law firm, it still started from the bottom. It's different bottoms for everybody.
Right. So people just relate to those types of stuff. So I figured if I make my music relatable and true and give it the details and don't embellish or like whatever, I just got to give you the facts, people were going to be able to relate.
I wanted to talk about something in hip hop. When you don't make it in other people's eyes, and maybe even in your own eyes, to a certain level by a certain time, or you have a smaller fan base that follows your music, redundancy or repetitiveness can be something that you have to put in your music. And what I mean by that is, when you're 50 Cent and you get the drop, Get Rich or Die Trying, that's your whole life inside of an album, but it went to the whole world at once. You got that story out there. But when you're grinding, you might have to mention the same stories on an album from 10 years ago as you do today, because only 20,000 people heard that album,
Right.
heard that story. They're missing important parts of your life. How do you go about that? Because if you might hear on multiple album situations that we were in together, where guns were involved, bulletproof vests,
Right.
terrible situations, deaths of our friends, all kinds of stuff like that. How do you deal with that?
I haven't had to run into it too much. There are certain stories that I actually do kind of actively avoid telling, just because I know I told that story so well on some other song. The fortunate part for me has been that my new fans go back. Like, they've been going back. So the discipline that I've had to always try to not fall into the trends or too many trendy sounds or whatever like that has led up to this moment where people can go back and still enjoy the music. If you're following the trend and your drums sound like the old Rick Ross, I think I'm Big Meech, and now you go back, somebody goes and listens to your music from 5 years ago.
They're going to say, this sounds like 2012.
Right, exactly. Where most of my music, and I'm sure I've done some shit that falls in line with some trends or whatever, but for the most part, I've just made what I make. So a lot of my fans that are finding me now get to go back and listen to this old music. So normally they're not just listening to This Is Not Music or whatever is about to come out. They're going back and hitting me. Yo, I've been listening to your whole catalog. Yo, I listened to all your songs and picked out, I got a whole playlist of you. And I'll get videos of people constantly scrolling through playlists, 30 songs, 50 songs from me. And I'm like, that's crazy. They went all the way back to 3 Day. Like, this is crazy that they're listening to Kanye. But they just found me 10 years after that.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because these are important stories that build people. At the end of the day, have to feel something for an artist, and that comes from knowing their history. And sometimes it lets them even understand, when you said one sentence in an album, if you're talking about how you've been fighting industry giants your whole life, and you talk about that on this new project, The Wolves Smell Joy, they might not get it. It might to them sound like a guy just saying stuff that sounds good, where if they go back to songs like Kanye, can you kind of briefly get some of the people up to speed that might not know about the song Kanye and what it entailed?
So in 2000, it was a long time ago now, 2002, 2003, whatever. I was reached out to by Atlantic Records. Daryl Jones from Atlantic Records was basically reaching out to my manager. It's such a long story. I'm gonna try to compress it. Yeah. But Daryl Jones was reaching out to my manager to get in contact with me. He had me, and he wanted to get me in the studio with another artist that he had, and he was thinking about signing me, but he was trying to sign the other artist. And it ended up being Lupe Fiasco. And so it was like, he wanted to sign me because I was the next Kanye in his eyes. He's like, we need a Kanye, but more street. You know what I mean?
And sorry to interrupt, but by Kanye at this time, what they meant was there wasn't as many people who made beats and rapped on those beats back then. That was like the special thing.
Right. That was new.
And the people that did never advertised that. You didn't really know, like, oh, this guy also produces.
Right.
So that's what they meant by Kanye, but more street.
Yeah. So they wanted, like, this was like the birth of like the 50 Cent era coming in, and people just, they weren't sure that a Kanye could be accepted. This is Kanye, pink polo, backpack Kanye. And they were looking for, what if, obviously I'm not a 50 Cent, but what if somebody more in the 50 Cent realm, or the people that appeal to a 50 Cent, somebody from Camden, somebody that know the hood, could also make beats and rap? Like, that's what they were kind of looking at me for, and I know that's the pocket they were trying to put me in. But that got messed up by, somebody that was basically claiming that I was signing them, and they were kind of, it just messed everything up. So in this interview,
we're not going to say, we're still not going to say who this person is.
It's on the song. If you want to know who it is, it's on the song. Like, I don't like sugarcoat it or I just know that now that I'm more of a person in a bigger light, that it will come across wrong. I don't want it to start anything. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And you know what? This is the craziest part. Being a overly honorable person, it does suck a little bit that you feel like you can't tell the truths of your story, based on just trying to be fair to people that weren't even fair to you. Because one thing about this industry is some of our heroes and people we look up to, sometimes either they're not good people or they've had some moments of just being really nasty people.
Yeah.
And did things that for them meant nothing, but set your career back years.
Yeah.
And so go on to that song and find out who tried to make you the end of the road. Let's go.
So yeah, I mean, it was other situations too besides like just the shit with that person. You know, it was lawyers that I had. It was, you know, different managers that dropped out. It was just like a lot of shit. It was always pushback, and it always felt like, damn, this ain't the moment. I thought this was the moment, but this ain't the moment. And you after a while, you kind of feel like I missed it. Somewhere along those lines, like one of those moments was supposed to be it, and I fucked up. I did something. I spoke to the wrong person. I let the wrong person know my next move, and you know, then it falls apart. So.
Yeah, because what happens too, you know, you've done a lot of stuff for people. You've done TV commercials, Ford Focus commercials, like different things. There's different ways in the industry to make money as a producer.
Right.
So you would be doing background music for that, background music for shows like Room Raiders and different things on MTV, stuff you don't even know about because you might sell it to a sound library, and then they do what they do with it. He also did the theme song to my show.
Right.
I mean, countless things. But sometimes it'll start to feel like, did you ever feel like you were like cursed or something was stopping you? Because if you did a lot of work down at Cash Money, shout out to Slim for the opportunities he gave us there.
Sure. Shout out Frankie.
And definitely shout out to Frankie Storm. And when you're there, you have these thoughts in your mind. Like, am I supposed to showcase my own talents, or am I supposed to shut up and write these songs? And so when that wave goes by and it leaves, did you ever think about stuff like that? Like, damn, was I supposed to rap for them instead of write for them?
Yeah. Every time it's like, damn, I was in a situation that I hear people talk about in their interviews. Like when I hear people talk about like, man, I was in the room and I saw Slim walk in and I just said, fuck it. And I just started rapping for him, and Slim was like, yo, I like your voice. I gotta get you in the studio. And it's some shit like that. You know what I mean? And it's like, was I supposed to do that? Or was I supposed to write these songs and then have one of them go take off and go platinum? And then people are like, who wrote this? And then they're asking me if I got more songs. And then Jermaine Dupri comes and hears one of my songs and he's just like, that's you? Nah, we need to put that out. Maybe that's the path. You never know. In hindsight, it's 2020. You always think, man, if I look back,
yes,
this is where I made my mistake.
The safer path that we chose was to play by the book. These people's budgets is what flew us out here.
Right.
We're going to work on their stuff and be good boys.
Right.
Same things that happened when you were working on doing a reproduction of, I think it was G Unit. I Stay G'd Up. Things like that, you know.
Yeah, they sent me all the acapellas to all these new 50 Cent songs that weren't out.
We're talking about back in the day when 50 Cent was like, this is it.
Right.
We have a vault now of these vocals for production. And you know how hard it was not to release.
To not take a 50 Cent verse and just put it on one of our songs. Like,
I mean, which we did for our own personal.
Yeah, but we didn't do nothing with that song.
Right.
And
correct.
by the time we even got the heart to do that, I think the album had dropped already. I think G'd Up or was already out as a single or
yeah,
something
100%.
like that. But it's like we had vocals from 50 Cent and Lloyd Banks and Young Buck, who these was all big rappers at the time, because this was the G Unit project basically, and we had vocals from that, but we didn't do it because we always felt like that would mess up a relationship, and we always felt like, and I know I definitely always still feel like this, like the relationships a lot of the time are more important than the quick move that might, you know, get a little attention or whatever. The relationship could last for forever.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that aren't still here to this day because of different moves and things like that they would make. But the reason why I said you know, sometimes it could feel like a curse is when it came to you being a young guy in Camden, New Jersey, there were not that many people that did music. Right. And we would all know about each other, but it was different crews. So it's like, oh man, they go over there with the agencies, the guys you were with. And I was over here with like Golden City and Unknown and East Camden guys. And people would always talk about Don. Don makes the beats. Don does this, Don. And you were the first person that of our generation for sure in the hood that landed a record with Terror Squad. And I want to talk more about that situation because obviously Pun dying ended that situation. Yeah. And that's where I said it could feel cursed. Tell us more about your relationship and how that went with Fat Joe and Terror Squad.
Yeah, I sent in some beats. Shout out to Low Pro, Anthony Collier. His aunt was our manager at the time, and she had some connections to some people at Atlantic. So I sent in I gave her some beats to mail, FedEx to, but because there was no email back then, this is how long ago this is. She mailed some beats to Busta Rhymes A&R. Busta heard some beats. He was fucking with it. He was like, send me some more shit. Those beats ended up in Rob Tilo's hands. And Rob Tilo was like an A&R at Atlantic, and he got shit to Fat Joe and Big Pun. Those beats ended up going on, you know, the Fat Joe, Big Pun, they picked through them, and Cuban Link heard one, and he went crazy on that beat and just started cutting to it, recording to it. And he went crazy. He did what they thought would be his first single, would be like a big single for him. And, you know, so I went up to New York. I met Fat Joe. He was telling me, you know, he was asking me what my name was going to be on the project. And I was like, back then, y'all got to chill on me. All right. Back then, my name was Infinite the Architect. Which was common in that Wu-Tang. In that era, this was a perfectly normal name, right? Infinite the Architect, because he's forever building, right? So I picked this name because I'm like, it's me, and I don't think anybody else has that name. And when I tell Fat Joe, Infinite the Architect, he's like, we already got the Infinite Architects on the album. And I was like, the Infinite Architect, who the fuck is that? And I go home and I'm like looking through albums, and I see these dudes all over shit. These dudes named the Infinite Architects. That's producers. So they're asking me what my name's gonna be. And I'm sitting there like, I don't know. I guess just put it under Don Sellers. I mean, that's my real name, Don Sellers. Let's put it under Don right now. Don Michael Sellers. Yeah, you know what I mean? And it's like, let's just put it under Don. And then Fat Joe was like, yo, he's like, your beats. He's like, every time I listen to your beats, they all sound like action movies, like fucking superhero movies. I was sampling like theme songs and movie music and shit like that. And it's like, they all sound like fucking action movies. They all action packed. That's what your name should be. Your name should be Action Packed or something like that. And I was like, Action Packed. I was like, all right, well, just put it under Don AP for Action Pack. Put it under Don AP Sellers for Action Pack. And I started running with Action Pack, you know what I mean? And then that turned into Action Pack Tracks. And then that turned into Tracks, which turned into Tracks Trigger. And then Tracks Trigger was for a long period of time. The whole time that we rapped together, you were Tracks Trigger. Yeah. And the Tracks Trigger came from a scratching sound, right? Tracks Trigger, and they thought, they thought it was a shooter. But yeah, so the Terror Squad situation was going good. I was producing for Cuban Link. I did mad joins for the 24 Karat album that Cuban Link was supposed to have. Cuban Link was a member of Terror Squad who was real close to Big Pun. When Pun died shortly before the album came out, the relationship with Cuban Link and Fat Joe just kind of surfaced that they were never really that cool.
Yeah.
And they were only cool because of Pun. Right. And once that surfaced, and they just, I think they still have beef now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And all that, yeah.
So the work I was doing on Cuban Link, and I was doing work. What's the other Armageddon? I was working on his album. I was rolling around with Terror Squad, and when Pun died, it kind of like all that kind of like fizzled out. You know what I mean?
And it's crazy that you was rolling around with Terror Squad, and then you were a young kid, and then you just happen to grow up, and his Big Pun son grows up, and you guys look like brothers.
Yeah, it's
People
crazy.
mix you guys up and stuff like that. It's insane.
When I went to when I first performed at South by Southwest, that's the first time I had somebody recognize me. But before somebody recognized me, people thought that I was Chris Rivers. Like I had maybe 3 or 4 people come because y'all don't know. I had super long hair.
Yeah.
Like long hair, like crazy long hair. And Chris Rivers has long hair. So people would see me or see the side of me and be like, Chris Rivers. And I would be like, no. And then by the third time that happened, it's like, no, I'm not Chris Rivers. So then when somebody comes up and they're just like, excuse me, are you, and I'm like, I'm not Chris Rivers. They're like, no, are you Don Michael? And I was like, oh shit. I'm in Texas, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
it's like, finally catching up.
Right. And I was just like, damn, this is crazy, but this is why I'm here. This is a reason that I'm performing. Like, I went to South by as a guest, and then the next time I went there, I was performing. So it was like that meant something to me. You know what I mean?
So for this particular project, it almost had like what would you call it? A soft release?
Yeah.
And you did that with even.biz.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about even.biz and how this works?
Yeah. Even.biz is a platform that basically lets people get music directly from the artists. They feel like fans shouldn't have to go to some other platform to get music from the artist that's not paying the artist. Of course we need a platform for people to download it. I don't care if it was on Dropbox or something like that. It's still going to Dropbox to get this person's thing. But even is like, nah, you can pay the artist directly and you can get the benefits from that artist that the artist wants to give you. So for example, my album, when buying my album, you're automatically entered in to win my laptop, which has all the sessions to my new album on it. You're automatically entered in to receive vinyl. 50 people are going to get vinyl.
But that's crazy to actually have the sessions in a laptop that things were recorded on. I've never heard of anybody doing that.
Yeah, I wanted to, but because I'm trying to be as thoughtful as possible and as thankful as possible because of the success of the last album. I always wanted to do stuff like add extra songs to an album. And when technology started getting involved, when it wasn't just a CD, and I don't have to release a deluxe. If you buy this album now, I can add extra songs. I always wanted to do something like that because I just wanted to make sure that people got their money's worth. You know what I mean? Like I always felt like if I get the opportunity to give you more songs later, if I thought of more songs that should go on this album or whatever, I should be able to do that. I should be able to just get it to you. And now with Even, I could do something like that. So another thing that I thought of was like, how dope would it have been if, I'm a huge T.I. fan, for example, or I'm a huge Kanye fan, or if I'm a huge whoever fan, and I'm like, how dope would it be that I had Dr. Dre's laptop that he made the Chronic on, or whatever. Like I know he didn't make the Chronic on a laptop, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but
yeah, like how dope would that be? Like if I had XXX Tentacion's laptop with the sessions on it, and I could just listen to the vocals, or I could, if I'm a producer, I could go in and make other beats behind it. Like that, I think that's dope. So I'm like, somebody will appreciate this, hopefully, and if not, you get a MacBook. You know what I mean? You're still getting a MacBook Pro. It's a 2017 MacBook Pro. You know what I mean? If you might have paid $1 for the album and got a MacBook Pro. You know what I mean?
So when you say you might have paid $1 for the album, how does that work? Because how how's the financial part work with something like a even.biz?
They let you pay whatever you want. That's the beauty of even.biz. First of all, I stole this idea completely from LaRussell. Let me just be right out with that. I saw LaRussell talking about even.biz. I went to their page. I was like, that's a great idea. I hope I could release my album through them. I started contacting them. They were like, hey, yeah, we heard your last shit. Yeah, let's do the new album. I was like, okay, cool. I think it's awesome that people can pay what they think something's worth. You know, if you wanted to, if you're like listening and you're like, I think this is worth $1,000, you could pay $1,000. If you're like, I don't know this dude, I just wanted to hear his music, and here's $1. It's $1. Guess what? That dollar, you know how many streams it takes to get $1?
That's one of the things that pushed me out of songwriting.
Right.
You know, once we went out of the time period of people buying albums,
Right.
and you would get your quarterly check and it would be like, okay, this is worth something, to it being vastly diminished. You know what I mean? It made a big difference. So seeing people that I know that you really look to for inspiration while they were alive, like a Nipsey Hussle, and he had the $100 album.
Yeah, the $100 mixtape.
And saw that it was possible that people that really support your stuff or wanted to put that battery in your back would pay the 100, because let's face it, in our society, community, people go to the strip club, the girl dances, somebody might throw 1,000, 5,000 on her back. They can definitely do that for hip hop performers and singers and stuff like that as well.
And it would be, I mean, you know, don't treat me like a stripper, but you know, if you want to throw money, on the album, go for it. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna deny you of that. But
make it rain on the album.
Yeah, make it rain on even.biz.
Yes.
But even they, you know, when I reached out and got in contact with them, they were like, yo, they wanted to do it. And they were like, just think of the different advantages you could have of being able to reach your fans directly. Because one of the things that I'm fighting through is like shadow bans and trying to be able to reach my fans directly, but having to do it through Facebook, through Instagram, through TikTok is difficult because they don't want you to be able to reach those people directly. You know what I mean?
Correct, because of the market,
right.
And things with that. I mean, basically, we've seen videos where people talk about how basically you become a network. If you can have 100,000 followers and you can advertise to all 100,000 of those followers, they look at it like we need to cut into that, or what they call throttle your connection to your audience so that they can force you to pay them.
Right, because if you could reach 100,000 people, then people would come pay me instead of pay Facebook.
Exactly.
You know, that's just the way it works. If I got 100,000 followers and I can reach 100,000 followers, Facebook or Instagram or whoever is going to say, we need a part of that money, or we're going to fail. So we need to make him pay to reach those people. So that's kind of what's, you know, one of the things that kind of gets in the way, and you don't know how much you have to pay to reach all those people. You don't know, once you buy an ad or whatever, you don't know how far it's going to go, how well it's going to work. It could test well, and then you run an ad on it and end up losing 100 followers like I did last week. So it's like, yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. But the good thing with Even is when somebody buys it, it shows me their name and their email right there. So now I have contact. I gave away 3 hoodies last week, like 3 items of my brand new merch. I gave away last week, just randomly I put a random number selector and just picked random numbers and was like, hey, Michael Knox, here you go. Here's a hoodie, bro. You won. And he's like, what's this for? And I'm just like, because you bought the album, you know? And it's like, and it doesn't take you out to run and win the laptop or whatever. It's just, I think it's just dope shit that I could do for my fans. Yeah,
and it's great to have those grassroots connections and to be able to do things organically through those different platforms. Now, what do you say to things like this? See, when you watch television, you'll see Coca-Cola commercials, and you might see the same Coca-Cola commercial for years and years because they're letting people know there's Coca-Cola on the shelves, right? Or Pepsi. Now with you, your commercial is kind of your skits. So when you get to the, for lack of a better word, hater level, because at first, when you get to a certain level, all of a sudden you see haters you never had before. I never had people dislike me or take something I said out of context. When people have things to say about maybe like redundancy of skits, oh, these skits are getting old, do something new.
Right.
What do you have to say to things like that?
Um, a lot of the times my response is like, you know, I would stop, but somebody else told me to keep doing them. So, you know what I mean? Which one am I gonna pick? Like, there's people that love these skits and escape. My boy just texted me. He uses these skits as an escape. You know, like he'll look at them and say like, I just want to hear the funny voices and then hear the clip of the song. And sometimes hearing the clip of the song make me want to go listen to the real song all over again, even though I know the song. And it's like, you don't know what these skits are doing for people. You know what I mean? You don't know how much I saved somebody's life from these skits. Like somebody that was about to kill himself. He was about to commit suicide because he became an alcoholic because of his depression. He was depressed. He had depressive thoughts, and then he started drinking to like kind of combat his depressive thoughts. And then he hated the fact that he became an alcoholic, and he didn't want to go get help or anything like that. He was about to just end it. And he said he went down a rabbit hole and ended up finding my skits. And he heard from one of the skits, he heard Funeral Black. And from Funeral Black, he heard how upset I was that my boy O died. And he said he didn't want to make people that upset about his death. So that actually saved his life. Him discovering that skit saved his life.
People don't know how important art is. I mean, obviously, you know, I lost my brother to a suicide 26 days ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you know, people having different outlets, and there were different outlets and art, you know, artistic outlets that I'm sure kept him around longer than maybe he would have been here. You know what I'm saying? So people can't sleep on, you know, they can't sleep on the effect of stuff like that. And then also just from, you know, getting off that just to a marketing standpoint, even if you have millions of streams of your skits, there's new people that never saw those skits
every day.
So what you have to explain to some of the people is, if you've seen this already or this is getting old to you, I don't want to lose your support. Just know that I'm still trying to reach other people as well.
Right.
In order for me to make this work, feed my family, I need more than you as a fan. I need more fans as well.
Right.
So I have to keep making the skits because I saw that this worked. It was a great way to convey my project.
When you think about the fact that I've been rapping for so long and doing music in general for so long and trying to find a way to make it work, you know, at one point, the only way to make it work is to get into the industry. And then, okay, now the industry's doors are opening and there's Master P's and there's people that are independent, but you got to have the money to even be like noticed and to get your music on MTV and to get to these places so that people can see you. So we didn't have Master P money, but we did get a CD burner and we heard Master P say, sell it out the trunk. So yeah, we selling it out the trunk, and damn, we ain't in a big enough hood to even make an impact to where that can spread outside of our hood or whatever like that. All right, cool. And then, you know, the system changes again, and now, okay, now we're getting back into the industry thing, and now I'm learning new, and I'm meeting new people, and maybe the idea now is to get big features, and maybe we can get the attention with
now
that.
There's mixtape sites, and we got to get on all the
right.
It's
always an opportunity, some new opportunity that popped up that you took your shot at in hopes to get a buzz, and I just never stopped, and I watched all the stars align when I heard about TikTok and how it worked. Yo, they're going to show your shit to everybody, to as many people as they feel like will like it. So if you make something really dope and people like it and watch it, they're going to show it to more people. I was like, well, I know I'm dope. I just got to make something that people get to see and hear. And then when they think it's dope, maybe they'll share it. But even if they don't share it, TikTok notices that they watched it. So let me just go to TikTok and keep trying shit and doing shit until I see if something's dope. And I noticed that the music was second. I had to be dope at entertaining people first. And I think that that's always been the rule. I just didn't know because I was so focused on making dope music that I wasn't thinking about how dope my image had to be, or how dope or how like entertaining the skit or the cover or the whatever else had to be. Like whatever I'm putting in front of the music, I need to take just as much care of that as I was of the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you talked in the beginning about when you just start talking about that, you talked about how you've been doing music for so long and working on this stuff so long.
Right.
Can you tell the people a little bit more about the history with music and your family and your father and what you were doing back as a child?
Yeah, my dad was a promoter, a radio promoter, for the label. So his job was super important because basically people didn't hear the music if my dad didn't take it to the radio. This is before the internet or any social sites or anything like that. My dad is literally the person between people hearing the music and not. He's the one that took it to the radio, because this is where you heard music. You took it to the radio and you took it to MTV and BT, and that was it. So my dad back in the day, worked with all the big stars. Like he was working at the big labels. So he was with Janet Jackson. He was with Belle Biv DeVoe. He did Blackstreet. He did all that stuff at MCA Records, which was a huge record label back then. So Mary J. Blige and Jodeci, and before that he did Sting, and he did it's so many names, it's hard to even remember them all.
And him being a junior, he grew up with gold and platinum plaques all over his home that had the same name on them.
Yeah, my dad still won't give me. I'm like, Dad, give me a couple. They're in the basement doing nothing. He's just like, you can get them when I'm gone. And I'm just like, Dad, give me some of these plaques. I could just hang them up in the studio. It's like legacy. And he's just like, get them when I'm gone. And it's like, all right, well, but he used to ask me and my sister to listen to music. To decide, he might be split between one or two records, this Janet Jackson record or this Janet Jackson record, and he'll ask me and my sister pick one, and I'll be like, I like this one, and if my sister was like, well, I like the other one, then he's like, all right, well, I'm going to the radio station, so y'all just listen to the radio and see if they play something. And he would just drive to Philly and go have his meeting or whatever, and by the time he's coming back, we're listening to the radio and brand new music, you hearing it right here first. This is the debut. Janet Jackson, Pleasure Principle, or something like that. And it's just like, I win. I picked Pleasure Principle. That's the one I picked. You know what I mean? And we did that sometimes. And I didn't know back then that I was picking the single. Right. You know what I mean? For
really grasp what he's saying right now, y'all. This is 11-year-old, 10-year-old kids picking singles, right, doing A&R work, picking singles all the way back then, and this is something that I've known for a lot of years, and I know about all the plaques and everything, right, but that's an amazing thing to establish an ear and a confidence in your ear when you're an older teenager and I picked that single for Janet Jackson. I did do that, right, even though I was a child.
Yeah, my dad was super smart of just testing stuff against kids, because he even knew back then, it's like, man, if the kids love it, then everybody's gonna really like it. You know what I mean? And he was testing it with me and my sister Raina. So, my dad always had the ear. I get my ear from my dad. But my dad didn't make music. He just had the ear. My mom was more of the creative. My mom's an artist. She draws. She makes stuff. My mom played the congas, played the drums. She's always been the creative. So I kind of got my go get it from my mom and my industry knowledge and ear from my dad. So it was kind of bound to happen. They knew from an early age. I was just telling somebody how my mom told me one day that she was never really worried about how bad my grades were. She would look at my report card and be like, he's going to do music. So it doesn't.
That's kind of crazy, because it wasn't like I had some super bad grades or anything like that. Sometimes, but teachers had that with me. He's going to be an artist. He'll be cool. They really didn't trip. I'm airbrushing in the middle of class and stuff like that in the 90s. You know what I'm saying? Right. With a can of compressed air in my book bag. When you think about how upset I would be hearing that my son now is doing that, I would be livid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they let me do that.
Yeah. My mom, she knew, you know what I mean? I don't know how she knew, because I didn't know, you know what I mean? But she was just he's going to do music. So, you got to pass. You got to pass. But it's it C's, D's, and some F's. And she's just it's whatever. He's going to do music. And my dad was like, boy, what is with these great? You know what I mean? You're not no dummy. Yeah. You know how to use that equipment. You know what I mean? So right. You learn that when you picked up that book and learned how to do that. But it's I'm not interested in
Yeah.
the other stuff.
It's
you know what I
definitely
mean?
about the things that people are interested that push them. It's just like we had a talk earlier about time and how some people act like they don't have enough time to do certain things in a day. And really, people make time for whatever they want.
Yep.
So you find all this time to sometimes record other artists, definitely produce other artists, do sound stuff for shows, background music, everything, and work on your own projects,
Right.
which is like really crazy to see the output of how much stuff that you actually like work on now.
Yeah, it's a lot, man, and it does take a toll on you. Like, as far as like you look up and it's like, what day is it? And it's like, oh, yo, it's 3 weeks into this month. I feel like it just started because you're spending so much time doing so much shit. But I wouldn't rather be spending my time working on anything else. So my focus has just been continue to make the content and continue to make high quality shit that could live on, because I don't want to make a bunch of shit that's just like, okay, and that's gone. It was here and it lasted a day and now it's done. I want to make shit that's like, oh, that's here and that's staying here. That means something to me. So, even if I'm a little bit slower with my output as far as like music goes, that even goes back to the fact that it's reality. I have to, write what's my reality. I can't just make up whatever and just fill in the blanks or anything like that. So it's going to take me a little longer to write, but it's going to mean a lot more when it's done. And I think that's where I've been at with all these projects that I've dropped and all these songs.
Well, something that's done now and ready for the people is the Wolf Smell Joy album that I can tell y'all is incredible. You know what I mean? These are the albums that this man makes that makes me wish like, why did I stop rapping? Oh my God, listen to this music. But on this album, there's some different records. I want to talk about some of the stuff of the album. Number one, the title of the album. Where'd you pull that title?
It just came to me. I just felt like it sounded really interesting, and it was kind of where I was in my life. Like, just all this fame shit is new. You know what I mean? People recognizing me in the malls, like locally. Yeah, that happened a little bit, but like recognizing me in the mall if I'm in Atlanta and Philly or wherever, and it's just like, oh shit, like this is for real. You know what I mean? But the things that come along with that, some of the negatives that people don't talk about. Me getting DoorDash brought to my house, and the DoorDash drivers being like, yo, you Don Michael. And it's like, shit, you know what I mean? And my girl's like, yo, you're not allowed to answer the door no more, because this is the third time that happened. If it was once, then it's like, yo, that was wild. When it's twice, it's just like, oh shit.
We talked about that happening here with somebody. They'll do the whole thing with you, and then the person was walking off and then mentioned one of my public situations, one of my public views, just like, hey, and it was like, oh damn.
Right.
I gotta watch out for the delivery person as well,
Yeah, exactly. So, that's like, in my mind, that's just like a negative to all the positive that's going on. There's way more positive than negative, right? But there's also like way more, if you're camping, there's way more good moments that you're having until like a wolf attacks your tent. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where it was with me mentally. It's like, it's all these good moments, but in the back of my mind, it's like, yo, this could go wrong. This could go wrong. So it's kind of like the depressive thoughts or like the darker thoughts that like start like kind of clawing at you a little bit to try to tear down the good shit. That's what the Wolf Smell Joy was. And
it feels like a lot of the stuff that you just said in the last few sentences sounded a lot like a song on the album. Guys, my favorite song on the album called Dangerous Games. And in that you talk about not playing with negative energy is a dangerous game. And you spoke about some of the different things that you saw online with like the murder of Nipsey, while you were like you were looking at it like, I'm trying to work with this guy.
Yeah, it was like a goal. It was a real goal. It was like a fuel. It was like, yo, if I keep making music enough, if I keep making these beats enough, I'm gonna get to Nipsey. Like, I know nobody's that far away. Like, nobody's unreachable. I know enough people. I make quality enough shit. Nobody's that far away, especially with this internet. And in the midst of like doing the shit that I'm thinking is gonna reach to him, or like getting my beats ready and yo, I know this person that knows this person that can get the beats for him, or this is his driver. It's like, for a couple days later to like see, yo, Nips, like I'm in a session and I get the text, yo, Nipsey Hussle got shot. And I go on Twitter, because that's where people get their news. And I go on Twitter and I'm just scrolling and I'm like, nah, this ain't real. Yeah. And then I see a video and I'm like, what is happening, bro? And it's just like, it's a camera shaking and you just see Nip on the ground, not moving. And I'm like, yo, this is for real. Like, I had to stop my session for a little bit. And that's like, you know, that happened when Michael Jackson died. You know what I mean? Like, it happened when like Prince died. And then for this person, Nip, who, you know, it's not a Michael Jackson or Prince. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to those guys, but at the same time, Nip meant more to me than what some family members mean. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, it's like for real.
And this is a thing like that, because I want to make sure to put emphasis on this for somebody that might see that and be like, that sounds ridiculous. But a lot of people that think like that don't have these this extra battery in their back in these goals. The reason why you relate more to those people is because you're more like those people.
Right.
You know what I mean? A lot of times your cousins and different people in your family, they might not have the same, their brain's not wired the same way that yours is as an artist.
Right.
An obsessive thing with creating. When you see people that are like you through the television or radio or wherever, you can build that connection. And if you talk to any of those people, they had somebody that they looked at in that same way.
Right.
So it is completely normal, actually, and people try to make it like it's weird. But it's not.
I know it's normal, but you know, I just know how people like will receive that or hear a little clip and take that
and
clip
turn it into something else.
Right. But for me, Nipsey Hussle wasn't just a rapper. Like, it was who I was getting compared to when I was doing 3-Day. I was getting compared to Nipsey a lot. Yo, he remind me of Nipsey. And I'm like, I don't listen to Nipsey Hussle, so I don't really know why people keep saying this. And then I go listen to a song or two and I'm like, I don't sound nothing like dude. He got a West Coast accent. He rap on these other beats like he's smoother. He don't talk like, why are people saying that I sound like him? And I saw him in an interview. And when I saw, and this does it for me a lot of times, is the interviews. I saw him in an interview and I was like, I fuck with how he thinks. Like, I fuck with what he's saying. So then I went and listened to a whole project and then I got it. I was like, he's motivational. And my whole 3-Day project was motivational. So when I dropped 3-Day and people was like, you remind me of Nip, it was because how they felt listening to me. It wasn't necessarily the sound of the music. It was the fact that we was both saying, get the fuck up and go get your shit. Stop making excuses and just do something. Yeah. And that's what Nipsey was saying. So from then on, I kind of started fucking with Nip.
Your thing for that album was, I gotta make 1 day, 2 day.
Right.
Like, instead of keep putting things off, you know what I'm saying? Oh, 1 day I'm gonna do this. You were saying, no, make it today.
Right.
And a lot of people don't know that when you're listening to anything or you taste something for the first time, you normally have to compare it to something.
Right.
Over time, you'll notice the difference. Even back in the day, if it was Wu-Tang Clan, Raekwon and Ghost would rap together, and there would be people that might not know which one is. No one mixes them up now,
right?
And they're just as different as they were then. It's just you needed something to compare it to. Right. People compared Noriega to Prodigy, and you know, and CNN to Mobb Deep, but it wasn't the same. You just needed something to compare something to.
I swore 50 Cent sounded like Tupac.
Well, because he had little things, but you look back and
it's like, nah, I wouldn't hear Tupac and 50 Cent on the same track and mistake them at all.
Never.
You know what I mean?
Never. Yeah, man. But the Will Smell Joy, man. You know, available for the people now. What else do you want to say to your supporters, and stuff like that concerning this project?
Concerning the project, I tried my hardest to make something unique and different than the last project, but still me. So I don't want people to ever get bored with what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I don't want to keep handing people the same shit. Just like we said, talking about the same stories over and over again. It's like, if I told that story and you heard it, I'm not really trying to tell it twice. If you like it, go listen to the story. That if I think of a different way to approach it, or maybe a different angle, then I'll tell it twice. You know what I mean? Or tell it from a different perspective. But this album is like all different perspectives, all kind of a time capsule situation of what I'm going through in my life, you know. And this is the fastest that I've ever made an album too. So it was kind of a little test to myself. Like, album by myself. Obviously, we did August Rush in a month, but this is the fastest. I started working on this album in like July and August, and it was done by like December. You know what I mean? Early January, and that was really for me like, yo, I gotta up my output because I got fans waiting. I got people that's been hitting me up for 6 months, like, yo, where's the new music? Where's the new shit? It's like I made sure that when I made this, that it was gonna be able to last. Like these are bangers. This is bangers. There's a couple records that's like real fucking emotional and from the heart. Upside Down. Just talking about my sister's situation, and different shit that I was going through. 3 Deep.
3 Deep, incredible.
Yeah, 3 Deep is just like, 3 Deep. I wanted the whole album to flow like exactly what I was talking about. There's a lot of good moments in the beginning. You got Peachy, you got like all these records that's kind of up, I'm talking about Etc. and all this shit, whatever. And then somewhere along the line just starts going to This Is Everything I Thought It Was, where it's like, yeah, the good and the bad, yeah, more money, more tax, yeah, more liars than facts, yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, oh shit, okay, here goes like a little bit of something that's going against this. And then it starts getting into a 3 Deep. And then it starts getting into Dangerous Games and more records that's just like, oh shit, like this is like the other side. This is the yin to the yang. And that's how I kind of put the whole album together, So just to the fans, like this one is for y'all. I tried to do it to the best of my ability, tried to make all the shit original. I as much as I don't want to, I listen to like the criticism. So I tried not to let it affect me a little bit, but I'm sure that some of it hindered some decisions and made me be like, let me stay away from this production. Let me stay away from this type of flow. Let me stay away from this type of thing. Let me just do what the fuck I do naturally. You know what I mean? Because before it might have been me trying to do some other shit to be like, let me make sure that people know I can do this. Let me make sure that people know I can do this. It's just like, no, let me do what I feel. So this album is a lot more of just what I feel and what I wanted to talk about. So that's what I want to say to the fans as far as this project goes. And just to the fans in general, I just want to say thank you. Because it's just been kind of a run that you don't expect to happen this late in the game. You know what I mean? It's just something it's never been done.
Well, for everybody that knows you, man, watched you do it the whole time, it's more than deserved. More than it deserves. I can tell y'all this person put in so much work. He has so much music that y'all will never hear that is leaps and bounds beyond everybody else's music. And just an all around great person. It's my business partner. It's a person that I built, this business with, you know what I'm saying? We've been rocking for a ridiculous amount of years. You know what I mean? Right. Actually, it's coming up on 20 next year.
Years, yeah.
Next year is 20 years.
20 years.
Of
we gotta have a party.
Yeah. We definitely need to do that, man. But make sure that y'all go and get this album. It's a March 17th release.
March 17th on all the DSPs. If you want the early access and the to be entered into the raffles and get the discounts on merch and discounts on tour stuff, you can still buy it on Even, and there's going to be added songs on Even that will never be on the streaming sites.
So that's what I also wanted to ask as well. Like, if a person goes and they listen to it on Apple Music and they just say, no, I love it, I want to support this guy, and they still can go on Even and possibly hear new songs as well.
Yeah, you're going to hear one new song that's not going to be on the streaming just right from the rip. And by May, there'll be 5 new songs on the Even release. But it'll be available, the core album will be available to everybody on all DSPs on March 17th.
All right, man. Well, listen, this has been another Dev one-on-one with Dev. And then, of course, we got Don Michael Jr. You know what I mean? Make sure that y'all go grab that project.
Yes, sir.
We up out of here, y'all.
Later.
Peace.